You're Human and You. Written by Mad Max the Black. Chapter 21. Out of the Frying Pan. Part 1. I sat patiently on the couch as Sunny fitted around me, double-checking my bandages. It had been a week since I returned home from the hospital. I still had bruises across my skin. The only part of my body that still needed to be bandaged was my chest, hands, and face. The cuts and scratches across my arms and legs were just little white lines scattered across my skin.
"Are you sure that you're okay?"
Sunny asked, checking the bandages over my right eye again.
"No pain or discomfort anywhere?"
I shook my head, smiling weakly at the Pegasus. Despite the fact that there were no complications arising from my injuries so far, she still fretted over the little things. She was hell-bent on making sure that nothing went wrong during my recovery, believing that everything that happened to me was, in some way, her fault. I tried to explain to her several times that it was in no way her fault that I had been kidnapped, but she had insisted that if she hadn't left me alone outside, it would have never happened. After the third day of this standoff, I gave up and simply let Sunny tend to me.
"You're sure you're going to be fine for the day?"
She asked for the umpteenth time, her wings fluttering nervously at her sides. I nodded my head, chuckling softly at her antics. Satisfied with her work, Sunny backed up, allowing me to get off the couch. Standing, I stretched, making my back pop several times. Rolling my shoulders to work the stiffness out of them, I turned and looked at Twilight, who was standing by the front door, watching us. She shot me a quick smile when she saw I was looking. "What's the plan for the day, boss?" I asked, before picking up my shirt off the coffee table and hanging it over my shoulder.
"Well, Sunny and I are heading to the guardhouse to question some of the ponies we captured at the warehouse. Normally this would have taken care of by the guards, but I asked to be the one to question their leader. It's personal."
She added upon my look of confusion.
"Once that's done, they'll be transferring the prisoners to Camelot for trial."
She adjusted the straps to her saddlebags.
"It'll probably take most of the day, so we'll be home around the evening, hopefully in time for dinner."
Casting one line glance at me, Sunny turned and trotted over to stand by Twilight. She picked up her own saddlebags that were resting beside the door, and placed them on her back, buckled them into place.
"You'll be on your own,"
Twilight continued, a hint of uneasiness in her voice.
"Are you going to be okay with that? Or should I ask one of the girls to come and hang out with you?"
"Twilight, I'll be fine." I signed, slightly annoyed. "I doubt anything bad is gonna happen while you're gone."
"You say that, but look what happened last time,"
Sunny said, double-checking her bags. I snorted, crossing my arms and looking away. One bad thing happens and one mental breakdown and they act like I'm helpless. I'm not a baby. I knew that I should feel thankful and appreciative of their concern, but it was just so annoying at the moment.
"Just promise me you'll take things easy,"
Twilight said, grasping the door handle in her magic. "I promise," I signed, rolling my eyes. With that, the two mares left the library, closing the door behind them. I stood there for several minutes, drumming my fingers on my legs as I tried to enjoy the silence. It soon became too much, however, and I grew restless. Alright, I've been stuck in this library for too long. Time to get out and blow this stick off of me, I thought, cracking my knuckles. Heading up the stairs, I made my way towards the couch, that also doubled as my bed. Tossing my shirt onto the cushions, I began fishing around behind it. Finding what I was looking for, I quickly pulled out my own bag. The lack of pockets on my pants had frustrated me to no end, so I finally broke down and designed my own way to carry things. I had made the bag using the belt I had found one day when wandering around Ponyville. If Rarity asks, I was nowhere near her shop at the time. Combining it with a small bag that Twilight no longer had a use for, I had made something that roughly resembled a miniature backpack, only in reverse. Instead of going on my back, it sat comfortably on my stomach and was easy to reach, even with a shirt on. Strapping it on carefully due to my injuries, I picked up a small notebook and a small stick of charcoal and sat beside the couch. Charcoal was messy, but it beat having to deal with ink splotches and the possibility of ruining my notebooks with it. Seriously, I think I've ruined at least 5 notebooks before I got comfortable with using a goddamn quill. And even now I still have issues sometimes. Making sure not to mark the notebook with charcoal accidentally, I placed them into the bag. Once I was sure they were secure, I picked my shirt back up and pulled it over my head. With that, the bag was hidden from view, although it caused my shirt to bulge slightly. Not that anyone would probably notice. My next stop was the kitchen, where some bits of cheese were wrapped in paper, a couple of apples, and some bread joined the other things in the bag. Satisfied that I had everything that I would need, I walked out of the kitchen and into the library. Taking one last look around, I opened the front door and headed out into town. I sat there, staring at the naked human in front of me. He just stared back at me, head tilted slightly to the side. He was slightly smaller than me, with short black hair on top of his head. He had stubble on his cheeks and thick eyebrows above his hazel eyes. We were both sitting outside one of the stores in the marketplace. I had found him tied to one of the hitching posts and thought that he would work for what I had planned, as long as the owner didn't return before I was finished. After my realization from talking with Fluttershy, I hadn't been able to sleep for the next 2 nights. The fact that I had seen the red-haired girl crying, combined with the fact that Fluttershy said she had never seen a human cry before, could only mean one of 2 things. Either the girl was from Equestria and just happened to be intelligent like me, or she was originally from Earth as well and stranded in Equestria like I was. Either way, she took her secrets with her to the grave when I, unfortunately, was forced to kill her. I tried to convince myself that it had been an act of self-defense, but I just couldn't get past the fact that I had possibly killed another intelligent human, which had led to another mental breakdown. Starlight had to cast a calming spell to relax me, and even that didn't help much. After eventually calming down enough to think rationally, I decided to try and understand my fellow humans better, as well as the strange interest that the ponies in Equestria had for them. And if I happened to find an intelligent human along the way, well, that would be a bonus, wouldn't it? This search would also help settle my growing curiosity as well. There were so many questions that were beginning to pop up the longer I stayed in Equestria, and I was beginning to become frustrated with the lack for answers. For one, was the girl in the pit actually sapient, or was it simply a trick played on me by my dying brain? Were there other humans out there that were intelligent, or was it just me? Could there be other humans from Earth here in Equestria, and they were simply stuck like I was, wanting to stay hidden from the local populace? What the hell is up with humans in Equestria? From what I had read in the limited amount of books I could find, seriously, for a race that is completely fascinated with humans, be it running them, owning them, or pitting them against each other, ponies don't have that many books, or information in general about humans. Your Human and You appeared to be the only informative literature about humans that they had, although they seemed to have countless comic books about humans. Griffins used humans as livestock, breeding them just for food. They would even hunt wild humans as game. In short, they treated them just like any other animal, no exceptions. There were no records of griffins keeping a human as a pet. Ponies, however, were a different story entirely. They viewed humans along the lines of dogs and cats, which was odd considering ponies believed that humans were aggressive and dangerous creatures that were prone to acts of violence. Not typically a creature you wanted living with you, or your foal for that matter. So why the interest in them? What was it about the humans that seemed to draw the ponies to them? And why the hell were most of the ponies hell-bent on running one of them? Glancing around to make sure no ponies were watching, I reached under my shirt and pulled out the wrapped cheese and bread. The human's eyes widened as he caught the sight of what I had. Breaking off a piece of bread, I offered it to him. With a low growl, he snatched a piece of food from me before shoving it into his mouth. I flinched when he lunged for the food, my eye twitching at the sudden movement. As he chewed, he eyed the remainder of the food in my hand with renewed interest. Good. I have his attention. Grabbing a piece of cheese, I held it out to him. He reached out for it and I pulled back at the last second. He growled at me, but I ignored him. Closing my fist around the cheese, I closed my other hand and presented both of them to him. There was a brief moment of hesitation from him before he reached down and began to try and pry open the hand holding the cheese. I relinquished the morsel to him, and he consumed it quickly. I grabbed another piece of cheese and did the same thing, but moved the cheese to the opposite hand this time. There was no hesitation as he chose the correct hand. Just to make sure it wasn't a coincidence, I repeated the process several more times, alternating which hand the cheese was in randomly. He picked the correct hand every single time. This continued for several minutes until I had run out of cheese. After eating the last piece, the human looked at me expectantly. Holding both my empty hands up, I leaned back and shook my head. His shoulders sagged slightly, and he slumped back against the hitch. I chewed on my cheek as I watched him, absentmindedly rubbing my fingers on my right hand together. Checking in to make sure that no one had taken an interest in what I was doing, I lifted up my shirt to retrieve my notebook and charcoal. The human perked up again as he saw the bag. I smirked slightly at this. Pulling out the notebook, I flipped it open to the next page and began to scribble quickly. The humans of Equestria are somewhat intelligent, enough so that they have object permanence. The subject appears to also have short-term memory. He was able to remember what hand the cheese was in, as well as remember where the food originally came from. At first, the humans in Equestria appear to be unintelligent, but they can comprehend how to use weapons, as well as how to kill quickly, as shown by the girl choking me, although that could just be instinctive. They also have the ability to be taught how to use tools, as shown from the mining work done around Canterlot. See Entry 5 in Notebook 3. There is also the issue of the female showing sorrow from attempting to kill me. See page 15 for discussion with Fluttershy, HiE, Human Tears. That shows comprehension of one's actions, as well as the understanding the consequences of those actions. These humans might not be as stupid as I originally thought. Further testing is needed to see exactly how far their intelligence goes. After jotting down the specifics of the test I had just done, I etched out the day in the bottom of the page before closing it and quickly stowing it back into my hidden bag. After one last quick glance around to make sure no one saw me, I threw the rest of the bread towards the human before standing, brushing off my pants, and I turned to head off as the human ate greedily. Rubbing my bandaged eye, I wandered through the marketplace, with no real destination in mind. I avoided the majority of the crowd, sticking to the edge of the marketplace. While I felt comfortable being by myself outside, I was still wary of ponies. The kidnapping had heightened my paranoia slightly, and I was constantly looking behind me to make sure that no ponies were tailing me. It also didn't help that I was still jumping at loud noises. I glanced at a guard pony that was patrolling the marketplace. He looked back at me and nodded silently, continuing his rounds. I just kept walking, trying to ignore the uneasy feeling well up inside of me. Twilight had told me that most of the guards had been informed of my unique qualities after the kidnapping incident, and that she had told them to keep an eye on me whenever I was out alone. While they didn't know any real specific details, they knew that I was a special human that could understand and comprehend ponies. I have a running bet with Spike about what she told them about me. I have 50 bits on her saying that I was an experiment of hers. On one hand, this was good, because the guards let me wander around by myself, and they also knew that I wasn't going to be a problem, so I didn't have to worry about actions being interpreted as acts of violence. At least by the guards, that is. Plus, they were ready to defend me if anything happened. On the other hand, I wasn't too sure how I felt about the guards knowing I was intelligent. A part of me knew this was completely stupid, and I was being irrationally paranoid. But another part of me, the little voice in the back of my head, kept telling me that the less ponies that knew, the safer I would be. Shaking my head to clear it, I continued circumnavigating the marketplace. It was nearing lunchtime, and luckily I still had the apples left in my bag. Reaching a hand into my shirt, I covertly pulled out one of the apples and took a large bite out of it. Juices ran down my chin as I chewed happily on the delicious fruit. Say anything you want about Applejack, but she knew how to grow some of the best apples that I'd ever eaten. As I ate, I continued walking through the town. I was too focused on enjoying my apple to notice where I was going, which led me to bumping into a pony. Stumbling, and once as my right leg twisted suddenly. Rubbing the sore limb, I quickly regained my balance and looked down to see who I tripped over. I cursed silently as I saw Cheerily looking at me with a hint of fear in her eyes. I just stared at her, head tilted to the side, casually chewing the bits of apple still in my mouth.
Good boy,
She stuttered, taking a step back.
I don't want any trouble.
She's still worried about me becoming violent? Jeez. Huffing, I reached out and jammed the half-eaten apple into her mouth, silencing her. She looked at me in confusion, a blush slowly spreading across her face, but I ignored her. Walking around the mare, I continued on my way, wiping my hands on my pants while finishing chewing the food in my mouth. First she was trying to talk Twilight into letting her borrow me for a day or two, and now she's scared of me. She really needs to make up her mind. Leaving behind Cheerily, I made my way towards the outskirts of the town, limping along. Apologies for the slightly shorter than usual chapter, especially when I haven't uploaded much this weekend. I am either sick or dealing with really bad allergies because just talking tickles the top of my nose, and it is the most irritating thing I have dealt with in a very long time. So I'm doing the best with what I have, and I figured it's not much, but get something out, you know? Hopefully this passes quickly. What else I hope for is the happiness of my wonderful Patreons. Thank you, my tier 1s, Pony Entertainment, McCarrier, Lord HiE, Jason, Hyperlink, Chase, Lemaster, Balance Kindness, Redeemer of Dark Angel, Boofloss, Nebula, Night Games, for Brother Mordred, Dreamless, Portal, Steve, and Shadow Angel. My tier 2 is Captain Blueshadow, Kayak Mist, The Animated Ghost, DJMX 2000, Elemental Wolf, H1 Wolf King, Peter 20, Mr. Crazy Deacon, Solar Comet, 200 Troll Trooper, Voyol Ka, G1121 Garza, Saint Gog, Mackenzie, McColas, Nocturne, Papa Lennon, Cloud Zaza, Solus Eclipse, Sword Brother Mordred, Artie Bryant, Tweety Dragon Wolf, Steel Spark Sticks, Nobody, Andrew Ingram, Rocky 2522, and Weewoo. A big thank you to my previous Titan tiers, Dark Guardian, Danish Dash, Maverick, and User 1842. A big thank you to my current ones, Bis Eclipse and Silent Titan. I thank you guys so much for your support, and it means a ton to me. That aside, however, this has been Firehearth. Have a wonderful day.